There's a conversation happening right in front of you that has no words, no explicit statements, no clear declarations, and yet it's one of the most honest forms of communication you'll ever witness. Women have an entire vocabulary that exists below the surface of normal interaction. And if you don't understand this language, you're essentially walking through life with half the information you need. Here's what makes this so frustrating for both sides. A woman can feel deeply drawn to someone, genuinely interested in building something real, and yet she'll almost never state it directly. Not because she's playing games, not because she enjoys being mysterious, but because there's a psychological cost to being the first one to make things explicit. Rejection hurts differently when you've put yourself out there verbally. So instead, she communicates through a system that's been developing for thousands of years, one that works perfectly fine when both people understand the rules. The problem is, most people don't understand the rules. They mistake politeness for attraction. They confuse friendliness with romantic interest. Or, worse, they completely miss genuine signals because they've never been taught what to actually look for. I've watched this happen more times than I can count. Two people clearly drawn to each other, both waiting for the other to make a move, both speaking completely different languages, and both walking away convinced the other person wasn't interested. So let's fix that right now. I'm going to walk you through the specific behaviors that reveal when a woman has moved past casual interest into genuine attraction. These aren't my opinions. These are observable patterns grounded in how humans actually behave when they feel a pull towards someone. And once you see these patterns clearly, everything changes. Let's start with something that happens so smoothly you might think it's purely accidental. When a woman feels drawn to you, physical space between you starts to shrink, but it doesn't happen all at once. It happens through what looks like random, innocent contact. She'll reach over to grab something and her arm will brush against yours. She'll laugh at something and briefly touch your shoulder. She'll adjust something you're wearing, your watch, your collar, something that gives her a reason to be in your personal space for just a moment. Now, here's what most people don't realize. Human beings are incredibly territorial about personal space. We maintain invisible boundaries around ourselves and we only allow certain people to cross them. Strangers stay at a distance. Acquaintances get a little closer. People we trust get closer still. But someone we're attracted to, someone we want to feel connected to, we allow them into a zone we protect from almost everyone else. Touch releases a cascade of neurochemicals in the brain. Oxytocin starts flowing, which creates feelings of trust and bonding. The nervous system interprets gentle, intentional touch as safety and warmth. And women understand this instinctively. They know that closing the physical gap creates an emotional one. So when she initiates contact, even briefly, she's testing the waters. She's seeing how you respond to her being close. Do you welcome it? Do you reciprocate or do you pull away? The biggest mistake you can make here is not responding at all. If she touches your arm and you act like nothing happened, she interprets that as discomfort or disinterest. And once she feels that, she stops trying. The window closes. The correct response is simple. Match her energy. If she touches your hand, let yours linger there briefly. If she leans in, don't lean back. You're having a conversation through proximity, and silence in that conversation sends the wrong message entirely. Now let's talk about something far less obvious but infinitely more meaningful. When a woman is genuinely drawn to you, she starts sharing parts of herself that she keeps carefully guarded from most people. I'm not talking about surface level information like where she works or what she studied in school. I'm talking about the kind of personal details that reveal how she actually thinks and feels about the world. She'll tell you about the complicated relationship she has with her family. She'll explain why certain things make her anxious. She'll share memories from childhood that shaped who she became. She'll tell you about past experiences that hurt her, dreams she's afraid to say out loud, insecurities she normally hides. This isn't casual conversation. This is strategic vulnerability. She's handing you pieces of herself to see what you do with them. Will you handle them carefully? Will you listen without judgment? Will you share something equally personal in return? There's a psychological principle at work here. Intimacy, real intimacy, is built through mutual self-disclosure. When two people reveal progressively deeper layers of themselves to each other, connection accelerates. A woman who wants to feel close to you will instinctively create opportunities for this kind of exchange. She'll ask questions that go beneath the surface. She'll share stories that matter to her. And she'll pay very close attention to whether you treat those stories with respect or indifference. What makes this so powerful is that you cannot fake this kind of openness. A woman who's just being friendly keeps things light. She talks about her weekend plans or the show she's been watching. But a woman who wants you closer starts building a bridge between her inner world and yours. She's saying without words, I trust you enough to show you who I really am. That level of trust is not given lightly. And if you're receiving it, you need to recognize what's actually happening. Here's another pattern that reveals intention more clearly than almost anything else. When a woman wants to deepen her connection with you, she starts engineering situations where it's just the two of you. No distractions, no audience. Just direct, focused interaction. And she does this so cleverly that it never feels forced or obvious. She'll suggest grabbing coffee after a meeting that everyone else is also leaving. She'll ask if you want to walk with her to her car. She'll stay behind when a group disperses, creating a natural moment where you're the only two people left. She'll text you separately instead of responding in a group chat. She'll find reasons to collaborate on something, help you with a project, ask your opinion on something she's working on. Anything that creates a reason for one-on-one time. What's happening here is she's trying to move your interactions out of public, casual space and into something more personal. Groups dilute attention. Other people create noise. She wants your focus entirely on her and hers entirely on you, because that's where real connection happens. Every group interaction you've ever had is a performance to some degree. You're aware of the audience, but when it's just two people, the performance drops. You get to see each other more clearly. The reason this matters so much is that time alone together accelerates familiarity. Inside jokes develop. Shared experiences accumulate. You start to build a private history that exists only between the two of you. And that history becomes the foundation for something deeper. If a woman is consistently finding ways to isolate her time with you, that is not random. That is intentional architecture. She's building the scaffolding for a relationship, one private conversation at a time. Now we get into territory that's almost eerie once you start noticing it. When a woman feels genuinely connected to you, her body starts unconsciously syncing with yours. Psychologists call this mirroring, and it's one of the most reliable indicators of attraction and rapport. If you lean back, she leans back. If you cross your legs, she crosses hers. If you pick up your drink, seconds later, she picks up hers. If you speak more quietly, her volume adjusts to match. This isn't imitation. This is synchronization. Her nervous system is trying to align itself with yours. There's actual research showing that when two people mirror each other, their brain activity starts to sync up in measurable ways. They begin operating on the same wavelength, literally. And this happens completely outside conscious awareness. She is not sitting there thinking, I should copy his posture right now. Her brain is doing it automatically because it has identified you as someone she wants to be in harmony with. What makes this so fascinating is that mirroring works in both directions. If you start subtly matching her movements, her gestures, even the rhythm of her speech, the sense of connection deepens from both sides. You're speaking a language older than words, one rooted in primal social bonding, two nervous systems recognizing each other and saying, yes, this person feels safe. This person feels right. The easiest way to spot this is to make a deliberate movement and watch what happens next. Shift your position, touch your face, lean forward slightly. If she mirrors it within the next few seconds, you're watching a subconscious signal of attraction play out in real time. And once you see it, you can't unsee it. You'll notice it everywhere. Let's talk about language now, because the words a woman uses reveal far more than their literal meaning. When she's drawn to you and thinking about the possibility of something real, her language shifts in a very specific way. She stops talking about her life in purely individual terms and starts weaving you into her future tense. It's subtle, but it's unmistakable once you know what to listen for. She'll say things like, we should try that new restaurant everyone's talking about. There's a concert coming up next month. You'd love the band. I'm planning a trip in the spring. Maybe you'd want to come along. Notice the inclusion. Notice the assumption of future shared experiences. She's not saying, I'm going to do this. Would you like to join? She's saying we, as if your presence in her future plans is already a given. That's not casual conversation, that's projection. Psychologists who study relationship formation have found that couples who use collective language early on, even before they're officially together, tend to bond more quickly and more deeply. The language itself creates the reality. When you start talking about a shared future, your brain begins treating that future as probable. She's doing this because part of her has already decided that she wants you in that picture. She's testing how it sounds out loud. She's seeing if you'll accept the invitation or deflect it. If a woman consistently includes you in her forward-thinking statements, if she talks about next month, next season, next year with you somewhere in the frame, pay attention. She's building a narrative and you're a central character in it. That doesn't happen by accident. That happens because she's imagining what life could look like with you in it. And now we arrive at something truly remarkable, something that happens on a physiological level that she cannot control even if she wanted to. When a woman feels attraction, her voice changes, not dramatically, not in a way that's obvious to a casual observer. But if you're paying attention, if you're listening closely, you'll hear it. Her pitch drops slightly. Her tone becomes warmer, softer. There's a breathiness that wasn't there before. The pace of her speech slows just a little, like she's savoring the conversation instead of rushing through it. This is not a choice. This is biology. Research has shown that women unconsciously modulate their vocal tone when speaking to someone they find attractive. A lower pitch signals comfort, trust, and interest on an evolutionary level. It's a subtle invitation delivered through sound. Think about how she talks to other people, friends, coworkers, strangers. There's a certain energy there, a certain rhythm. Now think about how she sounds when she talks to you. Is there a shift? Does something soften? Does the quality of her voice change in a way that feels more intimate? I've heard this described as the difference between talking at someone and talking to someone. When she's attracted to you, her voice wraps around the words differently. There's intention behind it, there's warmth. It's the auditory equivalent of leaning in close. And just like with mirroring, this happens below conscious thought. Her body is responding to what her mind is feeling, and her voice becomes the messenger. Here's the truth that ties all of this together. None of these signals mean much in isolation. A single touch could be friendly. One personal story could just be good conversation. But when you see multiple patterns showing up consistently with the same person, you're not looking at coincidence anymore. You're looking at a system, a language, a way of communicating attraction that bypasses words entirely. The tragedy is how many people go through life completely blind to this language. They wonder why they never seem to know where they stand with someone. They miss opportunities with people who were genuinely interested because they were waiting for some explicit verbal confirmation that was never going to come. And on the other side, women feel frustrated because they're sending every signal they know how to send, and it's like shouting into a void. Understanding this language doesn't make you manipulative, it makes you literate. It allows you to see what's actually happening instead of guessing. It lets you respond appropriately instead of freezing up or missing the moment entirely. And most importantly, it creates the possibility for real connection, because both people are finally speaking the same language. If you've ever felt confused about where you stand with someone, if you've ever wondered whether the signals you were picking up were real or imagined, start paying attention to these patterns. Watch for the touch that lingers a second too long. Listen for the personal story that didn't need to be shared but was anyway. Notice when time alone together keeps happening with surprising frequency. See if her movements start echoing yours. Hear whether her language includes you in her future. And listen, really listen, to whether her voice changes when she's talking to you. These patterns don't lie. People can control their words, they can manage their expressions, but these deeper behaviors, the ones rooted in nervous system responses and unconscious psychological drives, those tell the truth. And when you learn to read that truth, everything becomes clearer. You stop second guessing. You stop missing what's right in front of you. And you start recognizing connection when it's actually there.